This is Jacob, and he doesn't know it yet, but I'm about to fix his BMW E91 for free, and I teamed up with FC Puro to make it all happen. He reached out to me a few weeks ago and said he has a leak at his oil pan gasket, and if you know anything about the X-Drive oil pan gasket, you would know it takes 10 to 15 hours of labor just to reseal it, not to mention all the parts that are added on. If you were to go to a local shop for this job, it would cost you anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000. So stick around, we're going to be doing a full inspection on this BMW. We're going to surprise Jacob with the fact that FC Puro and I are knocking out this job for him for free, and then I'm going to show you every single step that is required to get access to this X-Drive oil pan gasket. We're going to reseal it, get it all cleaned up, and send Jacob down the road in a car that is driving like new and is leaking zero fluids. Grab a cold beverage and let's get started. Jacob.
Yeah.
Alec, nice to meet you, man. Nice to officially meet you. Yeah. These are one of my favorite engines.
Oh yeah.
We'll just sort of go over the top end and the engine side of things, then we'll get underneath it, get the underbody panels pulled off, and start poking around underneath.
Sounds good.
Give her a shake. Solid. All right, so yep, we got T-stat code, mechanism, map, thermostat, so it's jammed open.
Yep.
Better than being jammed closed.
Yeah, I guess they're designed to fail open, which is...
Yeah. So first thing I always like to check on the top side is just here at the bottom seam of the oil filter housing.
Yeah.
But yours is absolutely bone dry.
Heck yeah.
I don't know if you had it done before or not, but
I don't think so.
it's not leaking a single drop. Another thing I like to look at, this component right here is your main belt tensioner.
Okay.
So you got that Torx head right there. So you throw a socket into that in order to release the tension. It has a big spring behind it, and that spring, when it wears out, it starts to sag forward, and then the belt starts to walk off the tensioner pulley. It's pretty flush with the pulley. That's usually at the point to where I start to like note it and monitor it. When that belt starts to hang over the pulley and you can feel a lip on the belt start to hang over, that's when I'm like, hey, you really need to do it, because it can eventually turn into sort of a catastrophic failure type situation.
Yeah.
One thing that stuck out to me on the top end here is you see the upper radiator hose. You can see an example of it here. You see how it starts to turn brown?
Yeah.
And you can also see like a little bit of a hairline crack.
Okay.
Right there where the overflow hose, the expansion tank hose attaches on. These hoses get old and brittle and dry over time. And that's sort of like a color indicator that I like to use to decide when they're due or not. Yeah. So I'd probably replace that hose just as preventative maintenance. But yeah, it even looks like there's a little bit of a hairline crack starting to develop there, right behind where the expansion tank attaches on. So it's not leaking, but you know, it's just the little things that are good to note. The thing I like to do is just always check the power steering fluid. This actually looks pretty decent. I always check down here on the passenger side of the valve cover, and I always look to that very far back corner, right above those O2 sensor looms.
Okay.
This thing is super bone dry. All the oil leaks up top are completely not present. Coolant level looks good, and then I just usually push the float down. It looks like it's got some universal coolant in it. You can see it's a little green.
Yeah.
Factory BMW coolant's blue, but that's not gonna hurt anything.
Okay.
Oh, she's leaking, bro.
Yeah, no,
It's a good leak, bro.
Yeah.
Dang, you weren't messing around when you were like, hey, you want to put something down on the ground. Don't worry, I don't need it. Don't feel bad for a puddle of oil by any means. But that's a substantial leak. Quick overview on what we found. We have some oil saturation behind the crank pulley on the front of the oil pan there. We have a substantial puddle on the ground since it's been parked for about 45 minutes. Looks to be all isolated to the oil drain plug, oil level sensor, and bell housing area. So that's all gonna be contributed to the oil pan gasket. We also have a little bit of saturation here under the passenger side axle. Luckily, these axle seals get replaced with the X-Drive oil pan gasket kit from FC Puro, so those will be able to get refreshed too. And then you can see up here there's this little bump stop on the engine mount that's starting to touch on the engine mount bracket. So that's how you know these engine mounts are a little sagged out and they're starting to contact right there. So luckily these get replaced with the same kit as well. And that's about it for the front end. A little bit of play in the control arm bushing on the X-Drive, which is located in the rear as opposed to the front of the subframe on the non-X-Drive. But it's not too big of a deal, and we'll need a road test to confirm and then maybe replace at a later date since we won't have access to those with the oil pan gasket. Coming back, we have just a little bit of micro cracking in the transfer case bushing. I haven't done those before, but I'm sure we'd be able to do it, but that would require removal of the transfer case or at least dropping it down. So we'll worry about that at a later date as it causes symptoms. And then last thing to note is up here on the flex disc, there's a little bit of oil saturation, which is causing a little bit of the rubber to flake away. There's no major cracks or tears in any of the connecting parts that allow transfer of power from the transfer case to the drive shaft, but it is starting to flake away a little bit. So it is worth noting, brakes are measured and we're all in good shape, and E90 rear ends are always solid. So we got nothing to note back here. In total so far, belt is flush with the tensioner. We'll monitor that, replace the belt and the tensioner pulley in the future. Upper radiator hose is starting to turn brown, so I'll recommend replacing that as preventative maintenance. Oil pan gaskets leaking at the bell housing above the drain plug and oil level sensor. Recommend replacing that with new engine mounts and resealing the front drivetrain assembly, which includes dropping the differential, replacing the fluid, replacing both axle seals. Engine mounts are worn, bump stops are contacting the engine mount brackets, transfer case showing micro cracks, deterioration of the flex disc, and brake measurements. But other than that, dude, like that's it. That's all the items that we have to go through. Pretty much just oil pan, engine mounts, flex disc, transfer case bushing. And then other than that, everything else from there all the way to the rear looks nice and clean. All right, dude, so this is a bunch of parts I ordered up.
Oh, heck yeah.
So I went ahead and ordered the X-Drive oil pan gasket kit from FC Puro. One thing that I haven't told you about yet, though, is this is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. And I reached out to FC Puro so they could help me make it happen.
Yeah.
And I asked them if they would help me fix your car for free.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And so I reached out to FC Puro and I pitched them the idea, and then they said they were all aboard.
Oh,
so they sent me the entire X-Drive oil pan gasket set, and I'm going to donate the labor, and they're going to compensate me for the labor. So our game plan was to do the entire X-Drive oil pan gasket reseal for you for free.
Okay, that's sick, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome, dude.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I don't like charging money on my channel because I'm just like not a full-fledged shop.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have the warranty on paper to be able to back it up and any of the insurance. So for us to be able to do it this way, like you win, I win, FCP Euro wins, the viewers win.
No, for sure.
And it's just a good deal all around. So I'm super stoked that they were willing to jump in on it, and you seem like a great candidate to get this video concept started. So yeah, whenever you're ready, drop it off tomorrow morning and we'll get cracking. And I think I should be able to get it done pretty well. See you in the morning. This is so cool. Guys, I wanted to give away more cars. I just don't have the financial ability to do so. But you guys have been asking for an X-Drive oil pan gasket repair video. And I've been wanting to do this for somebody for a long time. Fixing their car for completely free. And I figured Jacob would be the first candidate to get this series started. So big thank you to FCPO for making this all happen. If you guys want to see more of this type of content or think it's a pretty cool idea, drop it down in the comments below. Maybe we can encourage FCP Euro to help us do more of these in the future. It's a big job. You know, we're looking at $2,000 that I would have had to charge Jacob. 10, 11 hours at $100 an hour, plus an additional $900 in parts. But now we're able to do something good for another good human being, and we can help spread that good energy and pay it forward, because I think that's just what more of this world needs. You guys know, I've said it a million times, FCP Euro has the best parts catalog, they have some of the best pricing, they 100% have the best warranty, they got stellar customer support, stellar technical support, they got everything that you could need for any of your European cars. So if you got a Volkswagen, an Audi, a BMW, a Porsche, a Mercedes, go to fcpeuro.com, check out their catalog, you will not be disappointed. I'm gonna go get Sage taken care of, get some good rest, eat some dinner, and then Jacob will bring the car back tomorrow morning and we'll get cracking on this X-Drive oil pan.
The next day.
It's the next morning. Let me properly introduce you to today's project. We got an E91 328i X-Drive, and it's a 2009. She's got 120K on the clock. Overall, the car is really clean. You guys have been asking for an X-Drive oil pan gasket. Today you're getting it. Let's get started on this thing. First step is getting this thing up in the air so we can get underneath. All right, now the oil pan gasket on any BMW is probably the most common oil leak, and it's one of the most labor intensive as well. You have to drop the subframe from underneath the engine to get access to the pan, to remove it, reseal it, and reinstall it. Now on the M54, the N52, and the N54, N55, it's usually about a 5 to 6 hour job. However, this is an X-Drive, so it has front CV axles that go through the oil pan. It also has a front drive shaft, and it has a front differential. So that pretty much doubles the labor rate for this job. So we're looking at probably 10 to 12 hours for this. So we got our hands full today. Now I'm gonna do this job by memory. I don't wanna look it up on Insta and follow repair instructions, but my game plan is to pull out this ram air piece, we'll pull out the cooling fan, we'll disconnect the engine mounts, then we're gonna go down below, pull off the 2 front wheels, and we're gonna remove this subframe completely. Pull it out of the way with floor jacks, and then we'll get started on the CV axles, differential, front drive shaft, and all that good stuff. So let's get started. I'm pretty sure we're gonna have to remove the power steering pump to get it out of the way of the oil pan. So that's why I'm gonna get down here, take the cooling fan out, and then we'll get access to the tensioner and pull the belt. Let's pull the torque screw for the cooling fan. Let's disconnect this overflow coolant hose. Really try not to break it. Pull the plug for the cooling fan. Now we need to go down below and pull the screw that holds the automatic transmission cooler up to the bottom of the cooling fan. Gotta try real hard. Damn it! Upper radiator hose just fell apart. I was really hoping to keep the cooling system complete. I'm gonna have to call for a hose replacement real quick too, so let me make a phone call. And that's how we get started, folks. Broken upper radiator hose. Let me show you exactly what happened. So in order to get this cooling fan out, you have to remove this expansion tank hose from this clip and this clip right here, and then you sort of have to fold it up and out of the way. Well, I showed Jacob this upper radiator hose and all the browning and the micro crack during the inspection, and I said we needed to get it done, and once I moved it and wiggled that hose, it just snapped the nipple right off. So let's try to get one sourced. Maybe it'll show up tomorrow. So I just got off the phone with my local parts store, wanted to see how fast I could get things. And upper radiator hose, Ryan's gonna be 50 bucks. FCP Euro was only 25. Expansion tank hose is another like 48 bucks. FCP Euro's $25. And then the thermostat, they wanted 120. FCP Euro's 99 for OE Molly thermostat. He's got a check engine light on right now for the thermostat. So I made the executive decision to order up all those parts. It's gonna be at about additional $200 in parts with coolant and everything like that. A little bit of labor to Jacob, but we gotta get this thing done right. This thing just snaps so easy. So we gotta do upper hose, expansion tank, and thermostat. Jacob will probably pop by on his lunch break later today, and I'll show him and tell him about the details, and we'll get approval from him. But not off to a great start. Let's get this belt off and keep going on this thing. Next step, we're gonna take our big T60, fit it into the slot here on the belt tensioner. We're gonna release the tension on the belt, get this thing out of the way so we can drop the power steering pump later. Let's just take this belt off completely so we can inspect it, get it out of our way. Ribs look good, no micro cracks. Feels like a good solid belt still, so we'll reuse it. Now in order to hold up the engine with my engine support bar, we need to have this cover removed so we can get access to that screw to those female threads. So let's pull the microfilter assembly real quick. Now you're gonna take the tow hook out of the back of your car, thread it down here into this cylinder head spot. This is where our engine support bar is gonna hook into to hold the engine up from the top. Next, I'm gonna go down onto the side of the valve cover and release the engine mount nuts. I like to use 2 long 3/8 extensions with a wobble 16mm socket on my electric ratchet. It's just easier than taking them out from the bottom. Is it wet out there or what? It's raining cats and dogs. You still smell good? This thing is just dripping so much oil, so before I drop the subframe, I'm gonna get the oil out of it so it just stops dripping and making a mess. Now you wonder why Jacob's oil pan was leaking so bad. The BMW dealership stacked crush washers. There's a warped ass crush washer because they stacked them. And there's number 2 right on the drain plug. So the dealership charges over $275 an hour for dealership level technicians to double stack crush washers on your drain plug so your car's leaking like a sieve for the next few months. That is ridiculous, man. Do better, guys. This is for the dealership, okay? Brand new man oil filter. Comes with the O-rings and a crush washer, okay? Silver drain plug, no crush washer, just one. That's all you need, okay? Okay. That's crazy. I can't wait for Jacob to call the dealership with that video. Hopefully he can get his money back for the oil service they did, because that's just stupid. All right, time to get this engine support bar on. Just get this hook in here, attach it into your tow hook with it threaded into the cylinder head, okay? And then these pads fit on the lip of the fenders here. Snug those up and give this thing a couple cranks just to make up for the sag from the engine mounts as they've worn out. You don't have to go too high, but I like to give it just a couple cranks. All right, we're good. It's a really good idea to use a hood lock while you're doing these too and lock out the struts. In fact, I'm gonna use 2 of them and I'll link them in the description for you guys, because if this hood comes down while this engine support bar is on it, you are going to absolutely decimate your hood with this stud. It's going to boom. Ask me how I know. I've done it on a customer's car before. Don't want that to happen. Now, before I get underneath and start pulling the subframe, we got to pull these little corner fender pieces. They cover up the back bolts for the subframe, so we got to get these removed. It's a couple of 8mm trim screws plus a 10mm plastic nut. It's been raining so much, everything's wet. So there's this hard coolant pipe that runs across the front of the subframe that's keeping us from removing our sway bar. So I'm going to start pulling these bolts. 10 there, 10 here, and then one more 10 buried up here as the subframe starts to bend up. I'll grab that in a sec. Next, I'm going to hit these power steering hose bracket nuts, because the bolt for the bracket is like way up top here, so I think just disconnecting it from here is a little easier option. Another note though is that these rubber power steering hose bushings tend to tear, especially if you hit them with an impact gun. So take a pair of pliers and hold them steady while you take those nuts off so you don't tear them. Tuck that up and out of the way. And then for this power steering hard line, 1 bolt there, 1 bolt there, and then another one up in here, right behind this bracket. All these mid-E chassis have this stupid hardware for this water pipe. Got it. All right, so now that pipe is free, power steering hose is free, we're making progress. I'm gonna pull this bracket for this power steering hose too, because it's gonna get in our way a little bit. I can get my ratcheting 10mm wrench up there to get the bolt out for this bracket. Might get in the way when we try to take the sway bar out. It's gonna be a big job, folks. Now we're gonna use a 16mm wrench. We're gonna hold the sway bar link with the 17mm. We're gonna take the nut off for our sway bar link. All right, now we're gonna take a 13mm socket and release these sway bar bracket bolts. Looking good, making progress. Now before we go dropping the subframe, see that Torx bolt right there? That's gonna connect our steering column to the rack and pinion. We're gonna rip that E-Torx out, separate the steering column. Looks like an E10. Now that that bolt's out, the next thing I'm gonna do is release these 2 banjo bolts and disconnect the power steering system from the rack. This rack and pinion is gonna come down with the subframe, and I'm not just gonna drop it. I'm gonna pull it out and remove it completely, because this oil pan is a lot of work and I don't want that subframe just hanging and getting in the way the whole time. So by pulling those power steering lines, we're gonna be able to separate the subframe from the rest of the car. We're gonna leak a little bit of power steering fluid, but it's gonna give us way more room. The banjo bolt sealing washers don't come with the FCP Euro X-Drive oil kit because it's meant to just be dropped and not removed completely, but you can pick yourself up one of these aluminum crush washer sets from Amazon. I'll put a link in the description for you guys. These are super handy to have for oil drain plugs, banjo bolts. It's great to have all these assorted sizes on hand. Not much room in there. It looks like the bottom big one is a 22. I got a drip pan underneath to catch the power steering fluid. Now there's 2 sealing washers on all these banjo bolts, so make sure that you have one of them so you can match it up with the right size, and make sure that none of them are stuck on the rack and pinion or on the hose so you don't double up O-rings like the dealership did to Jacob when he got an oil service, because it'll cause a leak. There's our second. I always like to just keep them on the bolts so I don't lose them. Now we have some good room to get in there with our, oh, it's not a 21. So the bottom one's a 22, top one should be a 19. God. There we go. On the 19mm banjo bolt, we got our 2 washers as well. So all washers are present and accounted for. All right, I gotta go meet up with my brother real quick. Right before Jacob showed up, I shattered my wireless microphones, and I was so devastated because I needed his audio to make this video concept happen. Luckily enough, my brother's a legend. He let me borrow 2 of his microphone sets. He's doing some recording today, so I gotta go drop the borrowed one off, and then we'll be back. Jacob's gonna cruise by on his lunch break. We'll give him an update on the cooling system and the whole project. Shout out to my brother Evan at Vanader and at Scorch Marker for saving the day with the microphones. Literally saved the day. I would have been delayed on this project over a week if he wouldn't have hooked me up with some backup mics. Thank you, Evan. All right, where'd we leave off? We just got the steering column disconnected. We just disconnected both power steering lines. We're getting ready to drop the subframe down. I'd say the next step is getting up under here. We need to disconnect the tie rod, the lower control arm, the rear control arm, and then we can have that completely separated from the knuckles on both sides. And then we can drop the subframe and work on getting this thing fully removed. Everything's going good so far, except for when I pulled the cooling fan out today. Dude, this thing just fell instantly. It just fell apart instantly.
Yeah.
So yeah, just small little hiccup, but other than that, everything's going smooth. All right, so now we got 24 mil. We're gonna knock off the nuts for the tie rod, rear control arm. Thank goodness. And yeah, I felt these bushings earlier. They were pretty soft when I pulled the car in, so we'll do those in the future. See about getting that Torx back up, because we're not going to be pulling it from the steering knuckle anymore. So yeah, if you guys are doing this on an X drive, I'd recommend pulling the control arm at the bushing instead of the joint. And then we're going to do the same thing on this one. We're going to pull this one at the Heim joint too. Let's run this back up. And that's disconnected. So now we're fully free floating. Now we just gotta do the same thing to the other side. All right, we're gonna need to disconnect the steering level arm because we're doing it this way. I'm just disconnecting the bracket for the headlight level sensor. This little bracket just bolts up here to the subframe, and it's holding this control arm to the subframe. Since we have the control arm staying with the steering knuckle, there we go. Okay, next is our big control arm. All right, both steering knuckles are disconnected from the subframe. Now we can drop the subframe. Let's go. Okay, next step, we're gonna start removing the subframe bolts. It should be 18s. So we're gonna rip them out with the impact gun, and I'm gonna leave 2 in until I get a floor jack underneath this to fully remove it. So let's get started. Now we get a big floor jack, bring it underneath. And I'm gonna put it just on this front section. That's where all the weight's gonna be. I think I have everything disconnected, but there might be a couple more things just below max height. Take out our front subframe bolt and driver's side front bolt. Okay, now while we're bringing this subframe down, we need to come over to our steering column. We need to make sure that our steering column is separating and that it's lifting off. This is a sort of one of those components that you need to keep an eye on while you're coming down with it because it can hang up. So now I'm gonna gently, slowly go down with my floor jack. Hopefully the subframe comes down with it a little bit. I'm gonna drop it down just a little bit. We're gonna come back over to the steering column. We're gonna take a look at that. Right now it's a little bit bound up. What I'm gonna do is take a nice long pry bar and I'm gonna go up till I can get access, so I can get a bite on that steering column knuckle. I'm just gonna try to break it loose. Yep, that's holding me up a little bit. I'm gonna rotate it so I can get to the open end of the pinch point on the steering shaft. You don't wanna be too aggressive with it. Made a little bit of progress with that punch at the base of the connection. Maybe we can sneak this pry bar in there, tap it in, and that'll release it. Funny enough, this red Pittsburgh floor jack used to belong to Jacob, the owner of this car. I thought I had never met him before, but it turns out he was selling this floor jack and jack stands that you've seen on this channel a lot, and he sold them to me for 150 bucks. Little did I know that we would meet later on and I'd be fixing his BMW for him for free. But he's a really awesome guy, and I'm stoked to be doing this series with him. Angle's looking a little bit better now. Let's keep going. We just gotta keep at it and keep finessing that column off. There we go. We got it. Now, let's bring this down slowly. And we need to look up and make sure there's nothing hanging on. All of our coolant pipes are clear. Power steering pipes. And we got it. We're out. Dang, man. This steering column fought me pretty good. Let's get the subframe out of here. Check out all this room for activities. All right. Now to get the CV axles removed. We need to remove the passenger side CV axle, and we need to remove the driver's side. Then we need to remove the front drive shaft there, get that removed, and then we have to pull the differential. And this little part over here that the axle runs through, we can keep that installed, and we'll reseal that when we have the oil pan out. All right, next, let's pull this passenger side CV axle. We need to take off this axle nut. It is a 36mm 12 point. Having an impact gun for this entire job is super helpful, so I'd recommend investing in one. You just gotta rip it off backwards. Next, I like to take an air hammer, fit it right into the dimple, and knock the axle out of the wheel bearing. Dang, that sucker's on there, bro. Well, this is the only torch I got, so might as well try giving it a little bit of heat. You really just want to hit the wheel bearing, not the axle, because heat is going to make things expand, cold is going to make things contract. So technically, to get this seal to break loose, we need to make the wheel bearing and the hub expand without heating up the CV axle. I didn't want to, but let's take off the front brakes. That way I can get a bite on the hub. We got a bungee cord today. Let's get this dang rotor off. I am not gonna strip this out and make more problems. No, sir. So we're gonna use an impact driver. We preload it to the left side because that's the direction we want to go. Boom. This rotor's not gonna want to come off. Normally I'd beat the shit out of it from the backside, but these need to be reused. These rotors have a huge lip on them. They were definitely pad slapped. They need to be replaced, but we gotta save them. Yeah, baby. That's a win right there. Okay, here's my next idea. I got this plate that comes with my slide hammer attachment. What I'm gonna do is thread in as many lug bolts as I can without damaging the hub. Then it comes with this big dude. Now we'll try to keep the hub from spinning and see if we can drive that axle out backwards. Stick a pry bar in here to keep it from rotating. Now I don't want to go too hard because I think we could damage the wheel bearing just because we have opposite forces. Yes, we're pushing the axle, but we're also pulling the wheel bearing. And this car doesn't have bolt-in wheel bearings. It has press-in wheel bearings because it's an X drive. But we got a couple turns. Normally I just blast these with the air hammer and they come right out, but this one's a different story. All right, I think my next option is more heat for a longer time. Really just heat that sucker up.
A few minutes later.
All right, let's go. Try more PSI. Jeez Louise. Well, let's let that soak and see if the other side will come out. So here I'm releasing the little tabs off the axle nut. When you snug them up, you bend these little tabs down and it keeps the axle nut locked on. But my impact gun's getting a little weak, so I'm opening them up. Let's go, let's get this thing out. Come on, Alec. That's what I'm talking about, baby. That's how it's supposed to come out. I'm super relieved I don't have to fight it on two sides, but let's go back to passenger. All right, took a plastic cup. I cut the top off of it so it'd fit the diameter nice and tight so it won't leak. And I got a meeting in 30 minutes, so I'm gonna see if I can fill this up without it leaking all over the place. Maybe I'll use ATF, and I wanna submerge this axle. Okay, we're out of tri-flow. Sacrificing all the tri-flow I got, but I'm gonna get this fluid level over the axle. It's not stupid if it works, so hopefully it works. I think we're almost above the axle. Just need a little bit more. I wanna get it up, maybe to that top edge. All right, I think that axle should be fully submerged. It might work. It might not work, but at least we gave it a try. I'm gonna go charge up the cameras, charge up the mics, have a meeting, and I'll be back out here soon to give it a whirl. All right, she's been soaking for an hour. Time to try again. Let's crack the seal off this, try to catch our fluid. I'm gonna try air hammer first. Also, we should try to spin it so we can just rotate our point of contact. All right, moment of truth. I got another idea before we go too crazy with that. I'm thinking we go ball peen here and then hit the outside with the hammer. Sometimes the air hammer just isn't enough force and you just need to use a regular hammer. Pull this strut out. Maybe I can put a block of wood behind there. I will get you. You're gonna come off. I guarantee it. Eventually. This hammer really isn't big enough, but it's heavy. This is crazy, yo. Trying to keep spirits high. Gotta get this axle out or else I can't do this. Oil pan gasket, I gotta do it. Well guys, as you can see, this thing is absolutely kicking my ass. You saw how easy the driver's side came out? Passenger side is just super seized. I'm trying not to damage the wheel bearing or the hub or the axle because I don't want to have to charge Jacob more money for those parts. So I'm gonna get all this cleaned up and then just sort of ponder and keep thinking, see if I can think through this. I might have to go out and buy some map gas and a much bigger hammer and keep getting after it. So we'll see. All right, so what I'm thinking is I'm hungry and I'm starting to get hangry, so I kind of need some food. I'm gonna get all the tri-flow soaking back on the axle again, and I'm gonna go pick up some food, and I'm gonna go hit Harbor Freight before they close and just sort of browse around for any ideas. Worst comes to worst, I buy a stronger form of gas so I can torch the hell out of that hub, and then I'm gonna get a bigger hammer too, and I'll use it in conjunction with this big weighted ball peen, and I'll heat the crap out of it, and I'll whack it some more with the hammer. Just got back from dinner and shopping. Here's the plan. So I got my can of propane for my barbecue, so we'll have some more volume, and then some propane heads to turn that into a torch, and another ball peen so we can get better contact, and an 8-pound sledge. Hopefully some more hammer and some more heat gets the job done. I've also been letting this thing soak the entire time I was eating dinner and shopping, so hopefully that penetrating oil worked in there some more. But man, this thing is kicking my ass, y'all. Yeah, I run into problems sometimes, like with the struts on my E90, but this is the most stuck CV axle I've ever had. Dang, I saw that fitting and I thought it went to the big bottle, but turns out this is just for the small propane bottles. I'm gonna try it, see if I can get more heat out of my bottle, but I don't know if this is probably just gonna have to return this one. That sucks. If I could get something to hold it right there, that'd be so good. All right, I'm gonna try something else. My brother reminded me of this when I was calling him earlier. This torch is definitely way hotter. I feel like we were hitting it pretty good with the sledge. All right, I got some candle wax and I need some pliers. Just trying to get anything back into those splines. I've seen this work on plumbing and on nuts and bolts, but never used it on axle splines. But we're going for anything at this point. I think I'm getting it. Getting so tired, guys. Oh yeah, baby. Oh, damn, dude. We got it. All right, to finish up the evening, I'm gonna try to knock these axles out. We can get the axles out. I can pull Driveshaft and Differential tomorrow, and we'll have the pan out within an hour. I just like to take a pry bar, hit this metal part. One down, one to go. Oh. Did you know that this is what the shake weight was designed off of? We got him out. What an ass kicker. Whew, I've never had a CV axle kick my ass so hard. But I think the solution was heat and big hammer. Man, you saw how easy driver's side came out. Just fell right out. Well, it's 8 o'clock. I've been fighting that axle for probably 5 hours. I'm pretty sure. So happy that we got it out. Never had an axle fight me so hard. Used to run into stuck axles all the time, but I also worked at a shop filled with guys, filled with extra knowledge, filled with extra tools, but we got it done and we salvaged the axle and the wheel bearing. I'm gonna go get some rest. I'll see you guys in the morning.
The next day.
Next morning, I just got the entire shop cleaned up. I put all of my tools back. I got everything all organized. Everything's back in its proper place. And if you take a look over here, you'll notice I got a bunch more room. The E30 just got picked up by the transporter. So now we got loads more room. I got all my parts for the E91 laid out. Got some room to spread out now. It's time to get back to work on this thing. We need to pull the front drive shaft. We need to pull the front differential. Then we can start ripping the oil pan out of this thing. My game plan is have this oil pan back on, resealed, and begin the reassembly process today. All right, let's see about getting this drive shaft out of here, huh? Looks like an E12. Wobble sockets really help. I'm gonna need to stick a screwdriver into this drive shaft. Should be 4 E12s in the rear, 4 E12s in the front. Drive shaft out. Okay, next step, I'm gonna take a 14mm Allen socket, or a chunk of Allen, or a bolt with 2 nuts on it, whatever you can do to get this to work. And we're gonna break the drain plug loose for the front differential. That looks really good. Really clean fluid, Jacob. I'm gonna start breaking the bolts loose now. There's 4 16mm bolts that bolt the differential to the oil pan. We're gonna replace the fill plug and the drain plug. Right now, I'm just trying to get it to stop leaking. There's an O-ring on the backside that seals the differential to the oil pan. So you just gotta break that loose and get this diff out. All right, next step, I gotta loosen these transmission lines that bolt up to the side of the pan so we can start ripping the bolts out for the pan. They just got these little brackets, so knock these 2 10mm nuts loose, spin them a little bit, slide them out, and you just kind of tweak them out of the way a little bit. And that should be enough room for us to get up. And then once we get this pan unbolted, should be able to sneak them out past there. Just disconnect this oil level sensor. All right. First thing we'll do, take out these little E10s that hold the bell housing to the oil pan. Let's see, that one can stay. It'll be this one here. These also hold up this O2 sensor bracket. All right, that bracket's loose. And there is one more E10 that we need to get up here behind the trans lines. All right, time to start ripping out the oil pan bolts. Let's get going, huh? I'll put one bolt back in up here just to keep the pan from falling once I break it loose. All right, last bolt. All right, let's try not to spill oil all over my chest. Let's get this pan out. There's our oil pan. We got her out. Let's drain this thing out. All right, I just got all my parts organized. We got bolts, oil level sensor, gasket, differential fluid, as well as our CV axle nuts and our differential drain plugs. We have our axle seals right here, and what I was looking for was these O-rings. One of them goes on each side of the oil pan. Let me show you. One of the O-rings goes on the inside edge of the differential here, and it has an axle seal on the backside. And another one of the O-rings sandwiches between this passenger side axle housing and the oil pan, and then another axle seal on the side. So I just wanted to confirm that I have the O-rings. Next step is I'm gonna pull the oil level sensor, get this thing outside, get it pressure washed and cleaned off. All right, let's take off this axle housing. 13 mil. There we go. There's that O-ring I was telling you about. I'm gonna go spray this area out one more time. Maybe hit some of these walls as well. And then we'll spray out the inside of this, get that all cleaned up too. All right, I'm gonna take a brush and spend a little bit of time just getting some of this stuff cleaned up, making it look a little prettier. I'm not gonna spend too much time on it because I don't really have a parts washer. It takes a lot of labor. All right, I'm gonna start cleaning up this pan surface. I'm using a blue Scotch-Brite disc on a die grinder. This is a very soft, non-abrasive pad. If you don't have a die grinder or if you're not experienced with them, use a red Scotch-Brite pad with a can of brake cleaner. You wanna just get the old gasket material off and get a nice flat surface. You do not wanna go crazy and gouge this oil pan surface or go too deep because it's gonna leak. Then you're gonna have to do this giant job all over again, and I do not wanna do this job again for a long time. I'm gonna finish it out by hand. Just give it a pass with the Scotch-Brite. Just to double check, make sure there's no impurities, there's no little pieces of gasket stuck, and just to give it a nice uniform finish, because I'm gonna use sealant on both sides of this gasket today. I'm gonna put sealant on the pan, and I'm gonna put sealant on the block. I'm gonna use Curel T, I'm not gonna use any silicone. Now before we do the final cleaning, I'm gonna clean out this port for the O-ring. Make sure that's nice and bitchin'. It's gonna seal up good. That looks beautiful. Do the same for this side where the O-ring goes in and seals for the differential. Next step is my least favorite step, cleaning the block. I've been dreading this. Now, if you've been watching the channel for some time or have seen me do an oil pan gasket video, you know what's coming next. A rag, some red Scotch-Brite, can of brake cleaner, and a lot of elbow grease. If you don't clean the mating surface here at the block, well, your pan's gonna leak again. All this gasket gets etched into the block, and you gotta scrub it all off and get it super bitchin', super clean, or else you're gonna have to redo all the work you just did. So this is the one part of this entire job you do not want to skimp on. So tear some Scotch-Brite and get to scrubbing, brother. I gotta try a razor blade real quick. I never use a razor on these to clean them up, but there's sort of a raised lip from the old gasket material. Can't tell if it's metal or gasket, so I wanna try to give it a pass. It's like that gasket etched in so hard. All right, I found some 600 and some 1000. I have some varying grits. I'm just gonna try this 600. Feels quite fine. I never really use sandpaper on these, but I feel like I kind of have to. I only ever use Scotch-Brite, but okay, that's nice and smooth. I'm not gonna go too crazy, but I can feel it and it's nice and smooth. So you can see up here we have the old gasket lines and they were just sort of super etched in and I could feel it raised with my finger. So I ran it down with 600 until this feels super nice and flush. I don't want to go until that line disappears because we'll start to etch in. So I'm just going through and I'm feeling everything with my finger. And if I can feel a lip, I'm going to scrape it with the razor blade, hit it with the 600, finish it out with Scotch-Brite. Now we're wiping it off with a clean rag and some brake cleaner just to examine, then give it another feel with our hand, see if there's any high spots that we need to scrub. The top feels good, but there's a little bit of a line here on this bottom gasket. All right, feeling good. Next step is getting some Coolant on the oil pan, dropping down the gasket, throwing a layer on the block, and then throwing the pan up. I'm running pretty low on Coolant. This is all I got left. So I'm gonna go hit one of my local auto parts store. They happen to carry it, and I'm gonna grab a new tube. All right. I got some lunch. I hit this surface again with some red Scotch-Brite just to give it a nice even finish. I'm now going to wipe off all the oil from my hands due to my Italian sandwich I just ate. And we're going to start getting prepped. I always like to wipe my surfaces down with brake cleaner and a rag just to get them really nice and clean. Make sure there's no engine oil or any sort of other contaminants on there that'll react with a little bit of sealant or the gasket. I wasn't able to find any more Coolant today, so we're just gonna have to run it with what I got, and I'm gonna split it between this and the block. And then for the part for the axle housing, I'm gonna install that once I have the oil pan back on the vehicle. Now I wanted to do both oil pan and block, but I just don't have enough, so I'm gonna go pretty light with the Coolant. Just try to get a super light bead all the way across, not even really a bead, just like a really light film. Helps keep the gasket in place, and I feel like it just helps it keep from leaking a little bit, but I gotta go pretty sparingly. Now silicone and sealant, that's all personal preference. I like Coolant. I've used this stuff for years. I always use it on my oil pan gaskets. You could use silicone at your own risk as well, but I tend to find that it just does more harm than good with little chunks of silicone getting into the engine. I don't really like how this axle housing pushes the gasket up like that a little bit. We're gonna press this down just to get it to cure against pan a little bit. Now we're gonna go down below, clean it up, hit it with one more bead. All right, we got a nice even layer of Coolant on the entire pan surface. Let's try to put this thing up. Just need to get one bolt up to hold it in place. Now we're not going tight on any of these bolts. We're just getting it started. Before we tighten any of these bottom bolts, we have to tighten the bell housing and suck the oil pan backwards a little bit. All right, I'm happy with all those oil pan bolts. Let's throw the bolts in for the bell housing before I snug up the oil pan. The way we can pull it backwards. 3 E10s on the bell housing. 2 on the bottom, 1 up on the driver's side. Okay, it's time to start our torque sequence. All these bolts on this oil pan are aluminum stretch bolts, one-time use. Both the shorts and the longs have an initial torque of 8 Newton meters, and then the short ones you do 90 degrees, the long ones you do 180 degrees. So I'm gonna start and go equal and opposite, starting in the middle, working my way out. I'm gonna take a Sharpie, I'm gonna mark a line on it once I do the initial torque, and then afterwards, once I do the angle torque, I'll do another line through it, so every single one that's torqued will have an X on it, and I know that it's been done. My torque wrench has been acting up, so I'm praying that it will work. Fingers crossed. Okay, that's initial torque on every bolt so far. Now we just got to do angle torque. We'll do the 90s and then we'll switch to 180 and do the long ones. Come on, torque wrench. You can't glitch on me, okay? I need you. All right, I lost my light, but hopefully you guys can still see. I'm working on to the long ones now, and I got to do 180s. All right, oil pan is torqued, baby. Let's go. Big win. Oh, what's up, puppy? What's up? Look at that stretch. So next step is going to be installing this differential, but it's pretty dirty. So I grabbed my cap set from Autoline Pro, and I got that fitted into both sides of the differential. We're going to pressure wash this thing off. Then we'll throw in a new seal and O-ring and get it installed. This first side is pretty simple. It's just an O-ring, and this O-ring has turned into a square ring. Doesn't look like it's deteriorated or anything, but it's still a little gummy. So just wipe off the outside surface, and then I think I'm just gonna take the corner of this rag and just sort of drag it inside that O-ring area, wipe it out, get it nice and clean. And so in the oil pan gasket kit, you get the differential side cover O-ring. There's 2 of them. One of them goes on the differential, the other one goes on the passenger side axle housing. So drop that down, take a little touch of Seal Glide, run it across the O-ring just a little bit to allow it to slip in. Now we flip this pig over. Now we need to do the axle seal. So I'm going to show you guys this method with a screwdriver because that's probably what you're going to be using at home. If you just go up underneath, try to go forward, but not too far to where you're like completely behind the flange of the O-ring. Try to get in right there. Boom. Now you can see the inside of the differential. What we'll do now, take a rag, wipe out the surface. It's double check, make sure both of our axle seals are the same, which we have the same part number. Okay, we got our new seal. Looks like a good fit. Little touch of Seal Glide, silicone grease, whatever you want. I just like to run a thin film along the outside just to allow for easier installation. Get a nice good seal in there. And I like to put a little touch on the inside too, just so the axle has a little bit of an easier time going in and it doesn't potentially dislodge or damage the seal. Now we'll drop that in. Now there's two ways to go about installing an axle seal like this. You can use an axle seal installer, which I'm probably going to do. Let me show you. I got this kit from Snap-on a long time ago, and it just has various size plates and cups, so you can find something that matches the diameter and smack it down. Another way you can do it is with a small hammer, and let's just say like a 1/4 inch extension. You can get it lined up, tap it in like that, and then use the extension. Kind of got to go even and opposite, because if you just wail on one side, it'll make the other side want to kick out. But you just want to hit on the meatier outside surface. Now what you really want to do too before you pull the axle seal out is you really want to pay attention to how flush it is, whether it's protruding from the differential or not. In this one it was flush, so I know I just need to tap this seal down until it's flush. Now if you hang your extension over the seal, it's going to hit the differential housing when it's flush, and so that's what I usually recommend, because then you can't accidentally drive it in too far. And just be methodical with it. It's pretty easy. All right, that looks nice and bitchin' all the way around. So differential's ready to rock. We got our new O-ring. It's lubed up with Seal Glide. We got our new axle seal. It's lubed up with Seal Glide. Once we install it, we'll fill it. I say let's work on getting this differential installed now. Got my 416 bolts. All the mating surfaces look flush. We'll tighten equal and opposite. And for torque spec, wouldn't tight. All right, now it's time for the passenger side axle housing. This is a seal puller, and I'm gonna show you guys a little bit different method on how to get this out versus the flathead. Same story, you don't wanna go hook all the way underneath the seal and gouge the inside of the housing. You wanna find the end point, and then you wanna back it out a little bit, because this whole top lip is really strong. You can see the flange, the seal is pretty much flush, and now we just need to be able to get enough force. I might have to put it in the bench vise. Okay, we got our seal. Drop this in. I feel metal. We're gonna back it out just a touch. Look at that. Beautiful. Same story as the last one. Wipe it out, get it nice and clean. New seal. There we go. New seal is installed. New O-ring goes on. Boom. It looks like the FCP Euro X Drive oil pan set comes with new bolts for the differential, so I'm going to throw those in real quick. Before we go to the other side, I forgot to tighten up these automatic trans cooler lines. So I'm gonna snug those up real quick. Just a little 10mm wrench, get those lines back in their holders, snug them up to the pan. All right, let's get the passenger side axle housing up into place. For some reason, I always enjoyed installing these. I think it's because they just pop in so easy with that O-ring. I did have to reseal this plate behind it one time, and it seals engine oil from getting into the axle seals, and oil was leaking out of that factory sealant on there. And then we'll just snug this up with a 13. Okay, good shape. Next step is getting these axles installed. Now, one thing I want to do before I do that is I want to take a wire brush and just try to clean out the splines on this thing, get any debris out. I don't have an axle puller, which pulls the CV axle back through into the hub and the wheel bearing, so I need these as clean as possible. I'm going to hit all those splines, and I'm also going to wire brush these threads, and we'll take a closer look at them. I'm also gonna take it over to the trash can and just spray off all the splines. Now I'm gonna do this on both sides, but you see a little bit of shininess right there. I'm gonna try to find a file, see if I can clean out those threads a little bit so that brand new axle nut goes on without a problem. Then I'm gonna put a little bit of high temp anti-seize in here, just so this slides in nicely and it slides out easy next time. So I got these Matco thread restorer files, and I'm just gonna take a couple swipes, see if I can clean that up. That works really nice. Now my grandpa, his name was Joseph, we called him Pepe. He worked at Rockwell as a mechanical engineer, and he left me a bunch of his tools. And this is a super cool Swedish steel needle file set. 12 assorted shapes, made in Italy of the finest Swedish steel. And it's just a super cool little versatile file set. There's no way I could ever link something like this for you guys, because I think it's pretty unique, but I love using his old tools. I feel like he's just smiling down from heaven when I get to utilize his old stuff. and I keep a lot of his old belongings in my toolbox. And these little angled triangular files are just so perfect for this type of stuff. Just cleaning up any of those little burrs. Okay, let's test fit an axle nut. Beautiful, wants to go on super smooth. We'll have to do some more work to the other axle because that one was the worst, but these get gummied up sometimes when you just rip the nuts off with the impact gun and you don't release the little tangs that you smack down with a punch to lock these on. Whoops, I just completely missed the axle installation. But what I did is I got it in there, got it started, and then I pushed the axle to where it bottoms out on itself, and I sort of use it and hammer itself in, and then I got it lined up on this side. And what I do is I take the strut and I actually give it a good couple pops to get enough threads exposed. With that much thread, I throw the axle nut on it and then I suck it in with the impact gun. So let's do that now. If it wasn't a CV axle, guys, I would have taken it off and showed you the installation again, but I'll show you on passenger side. I definitely got the orientation of my sway bar link wrong though, so I'll have to take that nut off and flop it to the other side of the axle. I go till she stops and she's tight. You guys can get after me for how I torque CV axles and for wouldnt the differential and the passenger side axle housing, but the oil pan gasket is torqued to spec, and this is simply just how I've always done CV axles, even in a professional environment. And so it's what I know, and I don't have the other tools to be able to torque that thing up properly and have it held down into place. But I've never had an issue with torquing CV axles this way. Now that the impact gun has bottomed down on the nut, I take a punch and I go right here to the slotted portion. This is my grandpa's punch again. Love using his tools. And I go right there, lock that down. And this is just to prevent the axle nut from backing out. They probably make a special tool for this, but special tools cost money, and I like to make do with what I got. All right, that side's in. And I wanted to put the CV axles in before I fill the differential, because when you fill the differential and it gets to the fill level, it'll spill out of the axle seals. All right, I'm gonna take a quick break. I gotta charge my camera. I'm gonna get cleaned up a little bit, say hi to my girlfriend. Jacob's gonna come by this evening for a status check, come see what's going on, and then we're gonna keep going. Hopefully we get this thing pretty close to buttoned up tonight.
2 hours later.
All right, camera's recharged. Same thing as driver's side. We need to clean up the splines, clean up the threads, hit it with the thread file, then probably clean out the wheel bearing and the hub splines as well so it feeds in nicely. That candle wax made it all the way to the back of the splines, which is crazy. So I think it actually did something. This job is not 10 hours, guys. This job should be a 15-hour job with all the cleaning and potential issues with CV axles. Ah, that's the one right there. I got the threads as good as I could. Gonna have to run it home with the impact gun. It's enough for me to get started hand tight, and then it gets a little bit tighter, but it'll go. Don't replace the C-clips on the inner axle shaft. If you replace those C-clips, you're gonna have such a hard time getting it back in. Just leave the old ones. Now we line it up with the hub. Okay. I just gotta have this on the right way the first time. It's so easy to get it off a thread. We got it! We got it! That is really good news. All right, let's put this brake back on. Oh, you know what? Before I put that back on, I gotta clean this hub. Most of the junk came off from beating it so hard, but it still needs a light cleaning because these wheels were stuck. And then I pulled on that dust shield so much when I was trying to get the axle out that I bent it. And so it was keeping the rotor from going on. Woo! One more thing done, a million more things to do. Next, pull the drain plug, swap it out with a new one. Okay, drain plug is tight. Let's knock out our fill. Let's see if I can fill this diff without a pump. Got some BMW Group Final Drive Gear Oil, 7590. Comes with the kit. Kit really comes with everything that you need, plus then some. All the extra hardware is just a bonus, but it's nice to refresh the hardware. Whoa, overfilled it. All right, and I'm making a big mess, but that's okay. It's down to a trickle now. New fill plug. Wouldn't tight. It's crazy there's oil saturation back here because the dealership left that drain plug crush washer on there and they double washered it. Wouldn't expect that from a dealership, man. All right, Driveshaft time. Okay, then I just stick a screwdriver up in here and hold it while I snug these bolts up. Same story for the rear. Okay, front drive shaft is tight. We're cruising. We're moving, we're grooving. All right, so my next step would be to swap the engine mounts and put the subframe back up. But I need to replace the thermostat and the upper radiator hose. And the thermostat is right there, and it's so easy with the subframe down. I ordered a new thermostat, hose, coolant, and expansion tank hose yesterday, literally last night, and it showed up today. I couldn't believe it. Like, Amazon takes me 3 days, 4 days to get stuff here because I live in the middle of nowhere. This showed up in one single day. So just another reason why FCP Euro is the best BMW and European parts supplier. Now we get to get this thermostat in, get the cooling system buttoned up, and then we can put the subframe back up. All right, let's get messy. Pull the connector, pop the clip for the lower, little pocket screwdriver up there, just like that. Oh, it's gonna be so messy. These thermostats are never clean. I'm gonna wiggle it from the top. Coolant's definitely due for a flush too. All right. Pop this hose clamp. I like to loosen them and then twist them so they separate like that. Then a little wobble 6mm, always best for hose clamps. I can do this thermostat with the subframe up like I did on Ed's X-Drive, but it's so much easier with the subframe down. So I figured let's just knock it out right now real quick. Then for this hose, keep me out of the splash zone, I just take a pry bar.
Bruh.
So yeah, Jacob had a check engine light on for thermostat jammed open. He hasn't been getting any heat either because the coolant hasn't been getting hot enough. So it's nice that we're doing this while we're all in here. That wasn't too bad. All right, engine mount time. Oh, it's an E-Torx, E12. All right. 7 p.m. I just got some dinner in me. Gonna try to push as hard as I can tonight and keep going. Want to see how far I can get. This job has been an ass kicker, guys. So if you're still hanging out and watching, thank you. I'm hoping this will be one of the most comprehensive X-Drive BMW oil pan gasket videos out there. Luckily, FCP Euro oil pan X-Drive kit comes with engine mount bolts. We got our brand new engine mounts. Gonna get these pre-mounted here. Switches from an E12 to a 13mm, which is great. Nice thing about BMW engine mounts, it's pretty impossible to put them in backwards, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone out there has done it. They got these little nipples on here, and this stud always usually faces to the outside, so you just gotta find the little home for that little nipple. I'm about ready to get this subframe back up. Before I do, I want to try to clean out this steering knuckle because this thing fought me so hard. I really want to clean it out with this wire brush. Hopefully that'll help. All right, I think we're ready for subframe. Oh, before we do that, let's put the oil level sensor in. New oil level sensor. All right, let's try to get this subframe back in, huh? All right, floor jacks. You've heard me say it before, as we go up, we need to be mindful of the steering column and the engine mounts. Engine mounts are our indicator as to where we need to go. In addition to the subframe mounting locations, we also need to keep a close eye on the steering column. Lift up the front. Got the steering column started. I need to get the subframe lined up. Make sure my power steering hoses look good. There's one engine mount. There's the second engine mount. All right, the kit comes with all new subframe bolts too. They switched from the hexes to the E-Torx, and it's even got the shorties too. That's nice. Get the steering column back down. Of course, that's not gonna go down easy. Fought me coming out, it's gonna fight me going back in. All right, we got subframe bolts in. Everything looks good. E14s, and the 18s in the back. All right, I need to get the sway bar in, and I need to get the steering column installed because it's not fully seated. That's gonna be freaking tough. Don't really know how I'm gonna get that steering column down. Probably have to take stuff apart up top, get access so I can hit down with the pry bar. Almost. Yes, winning. Got some new crush washers for this power steering banjo bolt. First try found the right size washer. Just kidding, it doesn't fit on the bolt. Second try. Gotta tell you guys though, having that assorted crush washer set on hand, so helpful in so many situations. Link will be in the description. Washer goes on both sides of the hose on the banjo bolt. Oh yeah,
Sometimes I feel like I know what I'm doing. Sometimes I don't. You usually want to hold these hoses in place when you snug the banjo bolts because the hoses will twist. There's the hole I'm working with to the power steering banjo bolts and steering column. Snugging up the subframe bolts. I already did the rear 18s. Now I'm just doing the middle and front E14s. Oh, this job has been so much work, guys. If you've enjoyed it or if you think this is a good tutorial video, I would love it if you would subscribe to the channel if you think I earned it. This is already so much work to do, and that's without moving the camera around, setting up lighting, explaining everything as I do it. Not to mention the editing that goes into breaking down this 16-hour repair and turning it into a 1-hour video for you guys. So I owe it all to you guys. And if you're new to the channel, I would love it if you would subscribe and join the team. We got an awesome community over here, and we have a stellar Discord server too with a bunch of awesome dudes that are always helping each other out. You can find the link to the Discord in the description of the video, along with parts and tools and all kinds of good stuff. The kit also comes with new engine mount nuts, and they're a lot easier to get on from the bottom as opposed to trying to get them to stick to your socket and get them on from the top. So I'm gonna sneak my hand up, find the stud, get it started, and I'll run it down with the long extension from the top. Those are on, just need to tighten them up from the top. Our stack of bolts is getting smaller. These are for the sway bar. That's for control arms. This is for thrust plate. These aren't getting used. Those are for engine mount brackets. Those nuts are for the control arms. We gotta put on these new sway bar bushings. These are still really solid. They usually get wallowed out here in the center. Let's see if we can hammer these on. Gotcha. Let's take these bolts. We're gonna have to massage these back into place. And I'm gonna have to fix that driver's side sway bar link because it's on the wrong side of the axle. I remember this went underneath the power steering bracket and the coolant hose. We're gonna get these bolts started and then I'm gonna adjust it because we have to find the center point on both sides because these bushings will slide back and forth, right? So I put that one up. I'm gonna have to knock it with the hammer, push it over. Okay, get you started. Now I need to fix the orientation, the positioning of this sway bar link because I put it on the wrong side of the axle. And I ain't gonna take the axle out, so I better take the sway bar link out. Gotta fit a 17mm wrench up underneath to the collar, but because of the positioning here, it's so dang tight. I'm also gonna be swapping nuts on the sway bar links because the kit came with 4 new nuts. All right, sway bar links are bolted up. They both look equal. Okay, while we're here, let's do the coolant pipe and then the sway bar bracket or the power steering bracket. We'll do the coolant bracket first. There's these little nut certs in the subframe here. This bolt back here for this water pipe is gonna be a pain in the ass for whoever's doing this job on their own. All right, no weight reduction on this car. Everything went back where it was supposed to. We gotta get this funky power steering bracket back on. Dude, I don't want to take the sway bar off. I have to. I gotta loosen the sway bar to get that bracket back on. Ejecto-cedo cup. Shout out BMW engineers for making these cars so easy to work on. Tell you what though, when you go work on your girlfriend's Honda, makes it a breeze. You say, oh wow, I forgot what working on other makes and models is actually like. It's so much simpler. They don't handle as good. They're not as comfortable to drive, but they sure are easier to work on. But we're just all gluttons for punishment. Everybody that watches this channel, you're just a glutton for punishment, like me. By the way, not sure if I've said it this video, when I hit 100,000 subscribers, I'm gonna give away another car. So if you're new to the channel or if you wanna see another car given away, help me hit that 100K mark. It's free to subscribe. And I'm gonna give a BMW away just like I did last time. That was probably one of the coolest experiences I've ever had in my life, meeting the Del Reals and giving them that car. And I wanna do it again. It gives me purpose. Just like this video, you know, I'm trying to make this channel something greater than just BMW repairs and vlogs, you know? I wanna make a difference. Okay, the subframe's buttoned up. Almost, just kidding. Got this power steering bracket to get on. This front end is so tight. There's so much stuff. Don't forget to grab these bushings when you snug these nuts up or you'll tear them. Okay, before I forget, I'm gonna jump down and tighten up those engine mount nuts. I think that's it for day 2. We're almost done. We pretty much gotta put the wheels back together. We gotta get the control arms connected in the rear, the center. We need to jack it up and tighten them up at right height. And then we need to put the cooling fan back in. We need to replace the upper radiator hose, connect the expansion tank hose, fill coolant, fill oil, fill power steering, run it, bleed it, drive it, reset check engine light. But I think we can knock all that out tomorrow. I'm going and playing a golf tournament in the morning at my local golf course. And then I'm gonna hit it hard and wrap this thing up tomorrow night. So see you in the morning.
The next day.
Just made it back home from the golf tournament. We did pretty good. We got 2nd place, but I'm tired. It's 3 o'clock. Now we gotta finish this car. So let's get underneath, get the suspension, control arms buttoned back up, and we'll keep going. We got some more work to do. Jacob's coming by this evening. We got some new hardware. We don't have enough nuts for all the new hardware, but we got new hardware. So we'll reuse the old nuts. Okay, that's there. Put our nut on for the tie rod. 80 Newton meters. Of course, because it's spinning. I need to rip it with the impact. Now you guys don't like it, but I'm gonna rip this with the impact. Let's hit the tie rod end. Press off this control arm, get this thing up to right height, and then we can torque the 2 control arms. All right, it's off the lift. That should be plenty good. I just referenced my YouTube video, BMW's #1 suspension failure and how to fix it, where I put M3 control arms on my E90, and torque specs for these bolts are 68 Newton meters plus 90 degrees, 68 Newton meters plus 90 degrees, because we refreshed the bolts. They're supposedly one-time use. Now back here, 68, 90, got it. Drop her down slow. Okay, I'm gonna rip down this tie rod real quick. Put 100 Newton meters on it. Nice. All right, we're torqued up. Okay, next I need to figure out how this little headlight level sensor rod fit in. There we go, just like that. Drop our 10 mil back in, then our connector and our plug. There's been so much crawling around on the ground this job. I'm tired. Let's get this little corner fender liner back in. Now, if you're a DIYer and you're thinking about tackling this job, it's a handful, especially if you're on your back. If your CV axles fight you, that'll be a big factor. It's doable. You know, drop the subframe, get it out of the way, pull the CV axles, drop the front differential, drop the front drive shaft. You don't have to take the belt off actually, because you don't have to drop the pump like you do on the N52. So you don't actually need to take the cooling fan out, which is nice. You can keep the cooling system uninterrupted, but it's a grind. It's a big job. I'd say in total it'll probably take me 15 hours labor, beginning to end, probably including the axle debacle, but that's automotive repair, baby. There's always gonna be problems and hiccups. Oh, this thing's finally going back together. I'm really happy to see that. My girlfriend wanted to let the chickens out today. Get out of here. Get out of here. I'm gonna wipe off the rotor real quick, get any of this grease or oil that I got on it while I was handling it with dirty mitts. Okay, next we need to knock out this cooling system. Might have to take this air box out. I don't really want to, but let's try without taking it off and see if we have to. The biggest thing on these E90s is you have to be so careful of these plastic radiator necks. When you let these N52, N51, N54, N55 upper radiator hoses on there for so long, they just like become glued to that radiator. And so you're rocking it and wiggling it and trying to get it off, and it snaps the radiator necks. So sometimes I take a tool and I actually cut a pie-shaped cut out of the radiator hose right here, and I pull the O-ring out with a pair of pliers so it just falls right off. I might have to today. Whoa, you ain't even connected, brother. It's this adapter plate thing back here in the intake. At least we found it. That's a leak after the mass airflow sensor right there. Okay, now I do this because I've seen so many radiators break in shop environments from people just wailing on the upper radiator hoses. So what I do is I take a cutoff wheel, and I'm just gonna make a pie cut and not cut down into the radiator, just enough to where I can get a little pie out of the top of this plastic hose, break that out, and then pull the O-ring out. And I'll show you how easy it comes out. Why can't I see the O-ring? Did I not go deep enough? Now I have that O-ring exposed. I just picked it and now it's broken in half. I'm gonna show you the next step. Okay, I gotta do this one-handed, but get a pair of needle nose, Gotta get a hold of that O-ring, and you can pull it out like a bot fly. I promise you, this seems unnecessary. It will save you from buying a $500 radiator. O-ring is out. Hose is off, and we did no damage to the radiator. All right, I've lubed up this end, and this end with Sil Glide. I'm leaving this end dry. I like to leave these little nipples dry. Spraying it with some PB Blaster silicone spray. Clip is down, radiator first. Wipe that down, clean that up real quick. Heater hose. Then let's drop the fan in, and then we'll do the expansion tank. Okay, expansion tank hose and then cooling fan plug. That goes there. Just gonna come over. We need to get our old hose clamp. The old one was original, so it didn't have a hose clamp. Good dang. Use this new hose clamp. And I never like to use ratchets and sockets to tighten these. I only use screwdrivers and nut drivers. Because if you put too much force on this expansion tank hose nipple, you will snap it clean off. Drop this down into its clips. Cooling fan plug goes on top. Oh my goodness. Forgot to put the belt on. I think I can sneak it. I've been training for this moment. And then pull the loop from the crank and the AC up to the tensioner. Get it flush on the alternator. Big ratchet with my Torx T60 fitted in the tensioner. Oh yeah, no problem. Okay, and I say this every time I put a belt on. I will say it again. Always check every single one of your pulleys. Make sure the belt is flush. If it's hanging off at all, the belt will start to shred and whip around, and it'll slice your radiator hoses. Let's throw the screw in for the trans thermostat. Okay, and now we need to do the fill on everything. And while I'm doing that, I'll start working on trying to fix that air intake, because that air intake was not set up properly. Let's start with coolant, pressure test it. Take off the cap. Hopefully if you're doing this X-Drive oil pan yourself, you won't have to do anything to the cooling system. I got some old premix, let's use this up. Okay, we got coolant steadily flowing out of the bleed screw. Drop our bleed screw back down. Don't over torque these, you just need it snug. It's got an O-ring in there that seals it. You guys know what's next, cooling system pressure tester. You're not done with the cooling system repair unless you pressure test it and you confirm it. 15 PSI in here. Looking good. I bought this new European oil funnel from FCP Euro the other day. Let's see if it fits. Oh yeah, that's sick. No spills, baby. We're gonna run some Liqui Moly 540. That's what came in the kit. It's plenty good for an N52. 530, 540. This is 5 liters, so 5.28 quarts. But since we did the pan, this thing's gonna be a little extra low on oil, so a little over 7 quarts will be just fine. This funnel's sick. Cooling system's holding at 15. What are you doing? You let me pick you up? Say hello. Okay, last fluid, some Pentacin CHF11S. I'm happy with the pressure test. Not seeing any leaks down below. Lube up the coolant cap, throw him back down. We'll do the bleed procedure in a minute. Let's get this intake reconnected. It's not a very well-designed intake. It's got this collar that fits in it, and I don't like it. Does it even need this? All right, I got that the best I could. We'll definitely put a new intake on it in the future if Jacob wants. We'll have to tell him about it. Dude, yeah, this intake's no good. No good, Jacob. Doesn't fit this car well. I'm not against cold air intakes, but they can't be leaking behind the mass airflow sensor. We'll have to fix it next day. Hi, Sage. What you doing? You want to come say hi? Oh, there she is. Who's a good girl? You running around with the chickens? Let's just take a second and check out this carnage. We have a cup full of tri-flow. We have the underbody panel. Got some coolant soaked cardboard, drain pan, impact gun, old thermostat, sandpaper, radiator hose, pick tool. We got cap and plug sets, engine degreaser, old bolts, bolt I swapped out for the air box, impact gun, blowgun, mirrors and flashlights and sockets and ratchets and die grinder for cutting the hose. And look at this workbench. It is just covered in stuff. Tripods and crush washers and seal pullers and old oil level sensors and grinders and extensions and flashlights and old parts and just so much stuff. I need to get this place cleaned up after we get this thing running. It just keeps going. Engine support part, floor jack, ratchets, bolts I didn't need, more plastic parts, thrust plate I still need to pressure wash, plugs, drain pans, old parts, boxes, trash. Everything. Nice hair, Alec. Let's put the new oil filter in this thing, and then let's plug into ISTA, clear faults, fire it up. 21 mil on the oil filter adapter. Old oil looks great. Filter looks really nice too. Man filter, dealership filter. If only they didn't put 2 crush washers on the drain plug, it would have been a stellar oil service with good parts. New O-rings. Okay, ignition is on. Nothing has gone wrong yet. And we're gonna plug into ISTA. Battery voltage is pretty low, 11.6. So I'm gonna let the car run for a little bit once we do the initial fire up, and then I'll do the coolant bleed procedure. But I just wanna get a little bit of charging voltage back into the battery. Then we'll put a load on it. Everything looks good. Faults are cleared. Successful. Moment of truth. Let's fire it up, see how she runs. We're gonna hear the power steering pump make a little noise, but that's no thing. What we can do too is just give it a couple rotations. Come on, work it out, little buddy. You got no reason to be that noisy. There we go. Had me worried for a sec, girl. Don't do that to me. Let's get the engine cover back on. Take a look down below. No drops of oil, no drops of nothing. Let's put the microfilter assembly back in. All right, let's kill it and then do the bleed procedure. Ignition on, engine off, heat, max, power level 1, foot, all the way to the floor. Hold for 10 seconds. This time I'm trying it without the defroster button, see if it works. Everybody on YouTube said, you don't have to press defroster. I said, I know, but I like to. All right, I hear it. Hear her burbling away, so we're gonna just let that sit for 5 minutes and do its thing. Got one more piece we need to clean up. Coolant bleed should be done. Yep, all done. Okay, before I put the underbody panels on, I'm gonna get down here and inspect everything. Tidy up any oil stains with some brake cleaner. Spray off those power steering lines. I'm getting a weird little squawk when I start the car. All right, listen close. On startup, there's a little funky squeal and the RPMs fluctuate a little bit, but I don't have a second person to start the car for me. Hear that? The RPMs could have been fluctuating before too, because when Jacob took the car home the very first night after we inspected it, I did hear it have a little bit of a rough start. I genuinely do not know what that is. Maybe it's a belt squeak, maybe it's air sneaking past this aftermarket intake. I'm not too sure. Jacob's coming by soon, so be able to get a second set of hands and he can start the car and I can poke around and actually see what it's coming from. Maybe I can position the camera and we can use that as eyes. Let's try that. God, that's so weird. Oh, I hate this. It's coming from the bottom of the car. I didn't even touch anything down here, damn it. Oh, I don't know. Jacob just showed up and I was like, hey man, I'm doing some troubleshooting. I'm hearing this like squawking noise on startup. I was like, have you ever heard anything like that? And he's like, yeah, it does that. And I'm like, oh, thank God. You know, that's the last thing you want when you do 15 hours of labor into a car, that it's doing something that it didn't normally do, you know, prior to startup. Exactly. But with that mystery out of the way, I have a general idea on where it's coming from. Okay, yeah. I think it's coming from where the engine meets the bell housing, sort of near the transmission, the torque converter area. Yeah. And if you want, we can actually listen to it a little bit. But let me fire it up and you can just confirm that it's the same exact noise. Yeah.
Yep, that's it for sure.
I have a general idea on where it's coming from. Okay. So we can do some troubleshooting in the future, absolutely, and get it taken care of. As far as the status of the car, it's running. Heck yeah. It's running really good. I'll give you the tour underneath. Yeah. I have the thrust plate all pressure washed off, so I'm just gonna be installing that next, and the underbody panels. And other than that, just probably taking this thing for a drive. Heck yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if something actually happened, it's a lot cleaner than the last time I was here.
Oh, 100%. And the nice thing was too, is I was able to get the subframe outside and I was able to pressure wash the top and bottom sides of it.
Cool, that's awesome.
And so just doing some last minute tidying up and we'll be in good shape. But everything went really good.
Heck yeah.
Just want to take a peek, make sure everything looks good. Wheels are torqued, tire pressure's set. It's gonna knock off all the little dust and stuff, and then we'll take her on a rip. One last tool check. Exhaust sounds great, dude. Yeah. It's driving smooth. I mean, we had axles, differential, everything apart. No vibrations, no nothing. I'm gonna pull over and let you get behind the wheel. Yeah. Let's take a peek underneath the hood real quick.
Okay.
Sick. She's looking good, brother.
Heck yeah.
And see, just even like a light pressure washing, it just kind of gets a lot of that dust off, and then you can really do your thing. But just squirt it real light and then drive it for a minute. Cool, dude. Successfully done. X-Drive oil pan gasket. Hopefully this can be a good resource for viewers out there to want to tackle it on their own. It's an animal, so if you're gonna do it, you got to do some extra research. But I hope you're stoked, man.
Oh yeah.
A big thank you to FCP Euro for making this all happen.
Seriously.
And I probably wouldn't have been able to do it without them, but having a company like them having our back and wanting to get on board with doing something like this, once I saw your email, I was like, sick. Jacob's the guy, let's make it happen, dude. So thanks for support on the channel.
Thanks
for coming by,
yeah,
dude.
Of course.
Have a good night, brother. We'll see you next time. That's a wrap. E91, X-Drive, N52, oil pan. Boy, that kicked my butt. A big thank you to FCP Euro for sponsoring today's video. This video idea would not have been possible without them. I really hope we can do more in the future. At 100K, I will be giving away another BMW. So if you guys want to help support the cause, it is free. Let's hit that 100K mark. Let's give away another BMW. In the meantime, hopefully we can help some people out with the repairs on their cars. So drop a comment down below, tag FCP Euro, tell them you want to keep this series going, and let's try to keep fixing some people's cars. I hope you enjoyed, or I hope you learned something new. And as always, folks, I'll see you on my next day off. Cheers.